Good evening. This is an informal meeting of the Gardner City Council on Monday, March 25th, 2024. I would like to ask the Assistant Clerk to please call the roll.
Certainly. Mayor? I forgot to start at the top.
No. Yeah, no, you just
Okay.
go with councilors. You don't
All
have
right,
to.
I apologize for that. Councilor Brooks?
Present.
Councilor Cormier? Not here. Councilor Jonalowitz?
Present.
Councilor Herdman?
Present.
Councilor Heath?
Present.
Councilor Hagelin?
Present.
Councilor Mack?
Present.
Councilor Thibault Muniz?
Present.
Councilor Tassone?
Present.
Councilor Tyros?
Present.
President Kaczynskis?
Present. Okay, we have a quorum present. Is anyone here recording tonight's meeting? No one is recording tonight's meeting. For the public watching this evening, we are meeting informally tonight regarding agenda item number 11200, a request from Councilor George Tyros to have an informal meeting to review the city's management of the Community Development Block Grant Program. This item was posted publicly in the City Council regular meeting packet for our Monday, March 4th, 2024 meeting, where the City Council voted to meet as a committee of the whole on this item, which is our purpose of our meeting this evening. City councilors and the public have had the opportunity to review the item, ask questions, and gather information since the packet was posted on Thursday, February 29th, 2024. This is not an item that requires a further vote of the council, but rather this meeting is informational. Also, for the public watching this evening, the Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG program, provides funding and technical support for projects that achieve the city's development objectives while principally benefiting low and moderate income persons and or addressing slum and blight conditions. Funding for the CDBG program is provided by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development under the guidelines of Title I of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended. Councilor Tyros is the City Council's designated member of the CDBG Steering Committee, which meets periodically and is made up of 6 members under the city's Community Development and Planning Department. Community Development and Planning Director Trevor Beauregard is here this evening to provide information and answer questions on the topic of the meeting. Thank you for being here, Director Beauregard. Since Councilor Tyros brought this item to the council at this time, he has the opportunity to speak on the item before we turn it over to Director Beauregard. Councilor Tyros.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you for your brief synopsis into the how we got here this evening. I'd like to take a minute to speak to the why we are here and explain my objective in having this discussion. In preparation for the first CDBG meeting of this year, I reached out to the director in February to request an update on previous block grant projects, specifically the demolition of the Greenwood indoor pool, construction of its new pavilion in its place, and the construction of Mackey Park downtown. The director informed me that this block grant 22-23 funds have not yet been released, so no project could be initiated. And in a follow-up question, he informed me that all work related to the block grant 2022-2023 grant would need to be completed by the assistant director after he starts. The reason why we're here this evening is because at that meeting, the director shared with me and the committee that as a part of regular monitoring and review by the state of the program, issues were found in the administration of both construction and public social services aspects of the block grant program. Issues that, as I've said before, are not detrimental, but are holding up funding for important projects and opportunities that we have to action on if we want to continue moving Gardner in the right direction and keep this important funding and honestly a great program that has delivered wonderful improvements and funded important causes in our city. My objective for this meeting is to have a discussion about the challenges being faced, to make sure that the changes are being made to prevent these issues from happening again, and to prevent future issues that could threaten the source of funding that the city receives. So my first question is, what were the issues identified in the state's monitoring of the block grant program in February? And more importantly, what actions is your department taking to resolve those issues?
Thank you, Councilor. Director Beauregard.
So just to address one comment that Councilor Tyros had mentioned, the audit for the 21 grant is not holding up any funding at this time. The funding for the FY 2023 is being held up because we need to do an environmental review and meet 2 different conditions that were placed upon it when we were awarded the grant late last year. So I haven't had the staff in place to do that. And so the new assistant director who started last week is now implementing that process, working with the state and our program manager at the state to get that done. And as far as the audit for the 21 grant is concerned, we responded to the audit, it was last Friday, was our deadline for responding. So we did respond to a number of comments that were, that arose from the audit on the construction project of Park Street and the Monument Park project. And also, we have 4 public social service programs under that grant. And we also responded to some, the comments on those also.
Anything further?
I'll apologize for the awkwardness of having to turn and take notes. Thank you, Director, for that answer. So to be clear, for the 2022-2023 block grant, the major project in that block grant was the Greenwood indoor pool demolition, and starting the initial questions I had for updates to that project. When you say you didn't have the staffing in place, was there no work being done on that project in terms of getting the environmental study moved forward without resources in place?
Correct.
Council Tires, do you have further questions right now?
Not at the moment, just taking notes.
Do you have anything further to add, Director Gardner? We'll open up to questions if you're good for now.
Only that just as a continuation of the audit and our response, we're waiting for the state to review and get back to us with a final report.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the council? Councilor Mack?
So clarification, the issues, the information was on here, it says February 23rd. So were you given an extension? You said last week to March, because on here it said it was due by February.
Yep. Yes.
You were given an extension.
Yeah, we
Okay.
we provided one response to the construction and public social service programs. However, we didn't have time to gather all the information either from our files internally or from the contractors that actually oversaw the work. So we would grant an additional couple weeks to put it all together and submit to them.
Councilor Mack?
If you don't mind. On the PSS monitoring, I just, in moving forward, is there a plan to get the different programs, Voices of Truth, Boys and Girls Club, etc., to do more progress reports, to complete the information that the grant is requesting? Moving forward, how are we going to make sure that the people who run these programs are accountable for providing the necessary information to continue to receive this funding?
Sure. Great question. Yes, so quarterly reports should be submitted with the invoices. So the invoices should not be processed without necessary documentation being submitted by the social service agency. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case.
And that will be corrected?
It has been.
Okay, great.
Councilor Mack? Councilor Mack?
Not right now, thank you.
Further questions, comments from the council? Councilor General Louds?
Thank you, Madam President. Director, obviously a number of points on here in the review that have to be addressed in terms of the audit. Is there a timetable on the state responding to your response?
I don't know.
You don't?
I don't know
Okay.
when to receive that. I know they're in the process of reviewing it right now.
Okay.
But we're also in the process of, I just submitted the FY24 grant today. So they're in the process of receiving new grants from all the communities statewide. So, I know they're somewhat short-staffed also.
And speaking to, obviously, you have Assistant Director leave. There was, kind of a quick turnover there as well, where there's been some gaps. Is there a plan going forward to try and help, plug those holes in the future in case there's turnover? So we, can avoid maybe some of these issues down the line?
So what issues are we referring to?
Well, it looks like some of these items, things weren't being turned in, satisfactory progress reports, the things from following up with the other agencies to make sure they're submitting everything with the invoices. As you say, you are short-staffed. Is there a roadmap for someone coming into, these are the things to do, and if someone's not around, here's the checklist of things that have to be completed?
Yeah, so, as far as training is concerned, the state has given our new assistant director, Evan Cudmore, some training modules to take as he starts. And then I've learned a lot over the past few months having to take on the block grant responsibilities. And so I think I can provide some more leadership as far as, what resources, where the resources are. He's already reached out to a couple other mini entitlement communities with questions on the environmental review. There's a system in place that's been in place now for decades within our department for filing. And really, all you really need to do is go into that system and duplicate what's been done in the past. We've had decades of successful programs run through the department, and it's all right there. And so I have instructed him to, go back, go through the files, whether it's electronic files from previous years or hard copy files. That's what they actually come in and audit. So just to make sure that all the files are complete, and then to go back and look at the older files to see what's actually in the files, because it's all there, So.
Thank you.
Councilor Tassone?
Director Beauregard, first off, thank you for what your department does for the city, first off. And I'm very appreciative and know firsthand how hard everybody works. My question is we allocated monies for grant writers this past year and just did it once again recently this past meeting. Have you been able to leverage these grant writers that we're hiring from the outside to help you in any way?
I haven't, no. It's being done separately, right? Yeah. So, in my previous discussions with the mayor, my department's at capacity. We have, upwards of $6 to $8 million in grant money that we're managing right now. I've had a recent turnover of 3 staff people for the second time in 3 years that I need to train and get back up to speed, which takes up a lot of my time. And so, writing grants is one thing, administering them is another. The hard part's the administration and management. Councilor Mack, as you're aware, it's time consuming. Reporting, overseeing projects, making sure people are submitting reports, invoices. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. So the more money we can get in, the better. But at the same time, you can only do so much. Unfortunately, without unlimited amount of staff.
Councilor Tassone, anything further?
No, thank you.
Madam President, if I could just add to Director Beauregard's answer on that one, that's 100% and you hit it on the head. Why we looked into getting that outside grant writer is that when you have a department that just has so much on their plate, it's easy for things to fall through the cracks because you just have too much to handle. And not only has there been an unprecedented amount of grant funding that community development's been overseeing with the projects that they're doing, but we've also appropriated a lot of money on the city's end to go towards different projects as well that they're overseeing. So we do have right now Central Mass Regional Planning Commission on a call right now for grant writing services for the city. They do the writing, not so much the administration, so that does fall back to city staff after that. But it is something that we have available if there's new grant opportunities that are out there to help write. We've used CMRPC to help us when we had a change in an assistant director a couple of years ago as well to help with some of the work there. So there's options available, it's just not what we've used for this program.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have kind of a follow-up here. So in your experience in the past, if the state grants an extension on something, or the state is now reviewing something and that's kind of pushing this thing a little bit further than it was expected probably when the grant money was when it was going to be allocated to the city. So in your experience in the past, would they look at this as like due diligence, like, okay, we've extended it, but we had a reason that we had to extend it, we got it in on time, so we're best practicing it, we're just trying to put things into place and get it out there as fast as as we can, but we were limited to this deadline that we just had for the reasons that we gave to get the extension, I would think the state might like understand that moving forward and releasing the funds to get the projects moving, but I don't know.
So the timeline for releasing funds and timeline for responding to the audit.
Well, so our timeline, so we've responded to the audit with an extension, right? Like that was an extension.
Sure.
Yeah. So, and now it's in the state's hands where they need to review it and get back to us.
And that's for the FY21 grant,
Right.
which we've pretty much closed out. I think we have like $3,000 left in the grant.
Okay.
And then there's the FY22-23 grant, which is a duplicate. It's a double. They doubled it up just to catch up with the
Right.
distribution of HUD funding
So,
due to COVID.
right.
So we got 2 years in one. That's the one we are working on freeing up right now.
Okay. And that's
Releasing the funds.
and that's with the state right now, or that's dependent on the study that needs to be done.
That's depending on us doing the environmental review and meeting one condition, which is we can meet,
Okay.
which is something that the assistant director is working on right now.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to see if anyone over here has. You guys have anything over here? Okay. I want to make sure I'm looking at the whole room here. Councilor Tyros.
Thank you, and thank you, Director, because it is keeping the line straight between the FY21 audit and the projects going on with the 22-23 grant. It's very good to hear that you'll be taking more of a leadership role and making sure that these reports and standard procedures are being followed, so I'm very pleased to hear that. In regards to the 22-23 grant and kind of the timeline we're looking at the study, I understand that the environmental reports associated with the Greenwood Pool demolition project, correct? That's a question.
Yeah, I'm not
Is the
following.
environmental study relative to the Greenwood Pool demolition?
It's relative to all the projects.
To all the projects.
But that is the one that is a little more intricate.
Right, because there's the Rome block demolition.
Correct.
Involved as well.
Yeah.
Construction, design with Mackey Park.
Yeah.
So there's various aspects to that 2022-2023 grant.
So what makes it more intricate, the pool project, is the fact that it is not on a historic register, but it meets the qualifications for being on a historic register. So all this environmental review needs to go through Mass Historic. And I know our previous assistant director reached out to Mass Historic on a number of occasions. I have a number of emails back and forth through the Secretary of State's office. Very hard to get in touch with, very hard to get a response from. So we're really not, we're at the behest of them as far as our timeline and filing our environmental report and getting all the approvals through the state. And so it's not just us doing the work on our end. We need to file all the paperwork, have public hearings, but we have to receive feedback from them in order to close the environmental review out.
Excellent, because just very quickly, Madam President, too, we get a lot of questions as councilors about, we, in 2022, we as a council voted on authorizing that 2022-2023 grant. In 2023, we had an event at Perry Auditorium to announce the CDBG grant because of its size and the nature of the project. So we often get questions from constituents about, when is the pool coming down? When is the pavilion going to be constructed? So it's good to hear that the work is going on and that there's a path forward for that funding and for working our way through the process as we move forward. So that's part of the reason, like I had said, it's not detrimental issues that were discovered in the audit, but things that we're just talking through and making the public aware for transparency. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilor. Councilor Mack.
Yeah, I just to follow up on the FY 22-23 with the environmental reviews, because you do have a new assistant director, because it is important, it is a lot of money in these projects, so I'm assuming you'll be more involved in getting him acclimated to that. The other thing too, and I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think it's out of line saying that when you look at the construction review things, some things were, not submitted, but some things by the previous person in charge of that was just gross negligence of duty. I mean, they just didn't do their job, and it's very clear. And I just think that's something that hopefully can be corrected in the past, because some of these things are just If you oversee a state grant, it's part of your job, they're just very cut and dry. But when some of these things weren't done at all, it's not, they were missing something, so they were incomplete is different than just not doing it. And that's just a concern. I hope that can be corrected moving forward. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Further questions, comments from the council? I would just, like to say thank you for being here and for all of the information, answering our questions. I think it's important. I echo what Councilor Tyro said. We do get a lot of questions. People get really excited about these projects too. We're very fortunate to have CDBG here, and I think having a public discussion about how it works and where it's at and what's going on is valuable to everyone, especially that they can see that, we are concerned about it. We have a counselor designated to the steering committee. You're a city department head, you're a part of it, you work with the mayor, just kind of seeing how it all works. I think a large part of the questions I get a lot of the time are kind of the explaining you have to do sometimes to people because they want information is just how things work. They're just not aware of it. And it can be all out there, but kind of putting the puzzle pieces together for people sometimes is helpful for them. And so that's, our connection with the public. I think also that having lots of grant money is a great problem to have, I guess, in the situation where it needs to be remedied, there needs to be work that has to be done, but, you have the role that you have, you're doing what you can moving forward, and you've explained that, I think, really well this evening, and I appreciate it. So is there any other questions, comments? Councilor T-Bone Munoz?
I'm curious about the mass historic and, in terms of getting a response, I'm wondering if we leverage our state rep, state senator, anyone else in the state that we could try to move them along and try to get an answer, to those relationships. That's something to be done or considered.
I don't think it's been done. I mean, it's something you can consider. We are having a conference call with the state later this week with a new assistant director to talk about this process, and we will let them know of our concerns and our issues of getting responses from Mass Historic. I don't think we're the only ones. I think from what I hear, there's a backlog at Mass Historic right now of hundreds of projects, and so we're not the only ones. So Evan did mention to me earlier today that he does plan on talking to somebody from Mass Historic later this week. They have told him to get back to him. So we were just going through a bunch of our ex-assistant directors' emails and found kind of a chain where we did find the right people to kind of get in touch with. So we should be talking to them this week, actually. But good idea.
Questions, comments, further?
Thank you, Council. You just
Tyrus?
reminded me of that question of the FY21 audit was submitted, and now the FY22 and 23 block grant. We're kind of waiting for the state to fulfill and start that work for the public's awareness. Is there a timeline on when that funding would expire if we don't make sufficient progress with the block grant program, or is it regulated in some other way?
No, it's there's a timeline. So basically, I think the state contract is through June of 26. However, they typically set a shorter time frame. I think it's the end of this calendar year. But it's not unreasonable to apply and get an extension if we need it. If we have, especially when we have our projects ongoing, we're actually implementing it.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't get it done by the end of the construction season, it'll probably carry over to next year. And it's normal to get an extension on these grants. Like I said, we have the 21's open, the 20 is actually still open. That's a glitch in the state system. So we usually have more than one grant open at once.
And just a final comment from me of, I think this has been a very useful time discussing these topics with you, and I think, a motivation I had of having this discussion before our council vote on the FY24 block grant proposal was to kind of get the update of previous years and to speak a little bit about the upcoming year's projects, which I know we didn't get a chance to tonight, talk about the large project in the 24 grant being the School Street school demolition and Jackson Park upgrades. So hopefully moving forward we can have those discussions.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you, Counselor. Further questions, comments from the council on the topic of the meeting? Anything further, Director Biergard?
No, I just want to thank the council for having me here tonight and hearing me out. Just want to let you know I'm always open. My door's always open. I'm here pretty much every day. And, phone call away, email away, so feel free to reach out anytime.
Thank you, Director Biergard. Thanks again for your time being here this evening. We sincerely appreciate it. Hearing nothing further, the meeting stands adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.